Welcome back, students, to part 25 of our IPRG Masterclass. I'm your lead instructor, Harshal, and we're jumping right back into our journey, decoding these complex healthcare rules. In today's explainer, we're tackling a really fascinating module, Root Operations Group 6. These are the procedures that always, and I mean absolutely always, involve a device.
But real quick, before we get into the weeds, I have to remind you, if you are enjoying this lesson, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel and share it with friends for this free course on Decode Healthcare with Harshal.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with a quick intro and recap, dive deep into what I call the court triad, unpack the change operation and its mandatory external rule, compare removal versus revision, do some hands-on abstracting practice, and then wrap it all up with the summary.
Section 1. Intro and recap. Let's do a quick Part 24 review.
So in Part 24, we mastered the root operations that alter the diameter or the route of a tubular body part. Let's make sure those anchor keys are still locked in. We had restriction, right? That's partially closing an orifice or lumen. Occlusion is completely closing it off. Dilation is expanding that route. And bypass is where we alter the route of passage entirely, like you'd see in a CABG procedure. If you've got those down, you are perfectly primed for today's focus on devices.
Section 2. The core triad. Group 6 operations. Let's start with our first rule in the triad, insertion. This is coded with the character H. The sole objective here is putting in a non-biological device that assists, performs, or monitors a physiological function. The absolutely critical distinction to remember is that it does not physically take the place of a body part. We're literally just putting it in to help out. Think of placing a central venous catheter or a tissue expander. A perfect clinical example is the placement of a cardiac pacemaker lead. When a surgeon performs an open placement of a dual-chamber generator in the chest wall, that device is there to assist the heart's physiological function. The heart itself is still fully intact, right? The device isn't replacing the heart. It's just monitoring and assisting it. That is the true hallmark of an insertion.
Now let's contrast that directly with replacement, which we code with the character R. Here, you are putting in or on biological or synthetic material that physically takes the place and the function of all or even just a portion of a body part. So in these cases, the original body part might actually be taken out, eradicated, or rendered totally non-functional during the procedure. It's completely swapped out for this new device or graft.
Just think about a total hip replacement, or a surgeon putting in a new femoral component for a total knee arthrostopy. In both of those scenarios, the original damaged bone is physically cut out. It's gone, and it's replaced by synthetic material. A free skin graft actually falls under this exact same rule too. The new material takes the place of the original part.
And that brings us to the final piece of our triad, supplement, coded with the character U. This happens when we put in or on biologic or synthetic material that physically reinforces or augments the function of a body part. The key difference? The original body part isn't removed, it isn't replaced, it just needs a little extra structural support. A classic everyday example is a hernia raphe using mesh, or a mitral valve ring annuloplasty. The device simply reinforces what is already there.
So if you want a mental shortcut, this is it. Memorize this framework and you'll never get these three confused. Just ask yourself, what is the clinical objective? If it monitors or assists, it's insertion, character H. If it physically takes the place of the part, it's replacement, character R. And if it just reinforces, it's supplement, character U. Boom! Simple as that.
Section 3. Change and external. A mandatory rule.
Next up, we have the root operation change, coded with the character 2. By strict ICD-10 PCS definition, this represents procedures where a device is taken out and an identical, or at least very similar device is put right back in, completely without cutting or puncturing the skin or a mucous membrane. It's essentially just a direct exchange of a device through an opening that already exists.
You see this in action all the time with routine procedures like exchanging drainage devices. Think about a standard urinary catheter change, or changing out a gastrostomy tube, or even a tracheostomy tube exchange. The old tube comes out, the new one goes in, and absolutely no new incisions are made.
Now, because no new incision or puncture is made, you have to lock this mandatory rule into your memory right now. Every single change procedure is exclusively coded using the external approach, period. Even if that tube goes deep into the body, like a G-tube, the approach for the change root operation is always considered external. Do not let complex physician documentation trick you on this one.
Section 4. Removal versus revision. Taking out versus correcting.
Let's contrast our final duo. Removal, which is character P, means taking the device completely out. If a surgeon takes out a broken pacemaker lead and does not put a new one in right away, that is a removal. Revision, on the other hand, character W, means leaving the device in but correcting it. Maybe the device is malfunctioning or it got displaced. So if you're adjusting the position of a pacemaker lead or re-cementing a hip prosthesis, you are revising the existing setup. You are not removing it entirely.
Section 5. Abstracting practice. Interpreting notes.
Okay, let's talk about the real world. When you read a physician's documentation, you are constantly going to see brand names instead of generic device terms. This is exactly where you must use the ICD-10 PCS device key appendix. If a surgeon documents that they put in a BAHA implant, you can't just guess the code. You have to cross-reference it in the device key, which maps BAHA directly to a hearing device for your abstraction. Translating those specific brand names to standard PCS definitions is the only way you guarantee accuracy in Group 6.
Section 6. Summary. Group 6 anchor keys.
Let's lock this in. Memorize these alphanumeric characters for Group 6. H is for insertion, R is for replacement, U is for supplement, 2 is for change, P is for removal, and W is for revision. These 6 characters form your structural foundation for all procedures that always involve the device. Knowing the clinical objective of each, whether it assists, replaces, reinforces, swaps, takes out, or corrects, is going to make your coding lightning fast and dead accurate.
As you process these rules today, I want to leave you with a thought. As medical devices become more biological, more integrated, and way more advanced, will the line between replacement and supplement eventually disappear altogether? It's a wild thing to think about as we set the stage for our next lesson, Part 26, where we'll be diving into Groups 7, 8, and 9.
Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are enjoying this lesson, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel and share it with friends for this free course on Decode Healthcare with Harshal. Keep studying hard, trust the structure, and I will see you all in Part 26.